Vikings at their own 39. It's third down. Three receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop. Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay back. Oh my God. 30. No 10. Touchdown. Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis miracle.
Hey guys. Thanks so much for tuning into the Anywhere podcast. My guest today, if you're a Vikings fan, you're going to know him, Paul Allen. He's been the veteran voice of the Vikings since 2002. Also has his own radio show on KFAN, and he's coined the term that we all love to hear, the Minneapolis miracle. So Paul, how you doing today?
Yo, what's up, Archie? Nice to meet you, man. Thanks for asking me to come on. Is your given first name Archibald?
No, it's just Archie.
It's Archie.
Yeah, it was my dad's name, my grandpa's name, so I'm Archie the third.
So, I mean, the reason I ask is being old school NBA guy, Nate Tiny Archibald, Boston Celtics back in the day, unbelievable. If you were to identify maybe the most famous Archies in the history of sports, who would they be?
The only other famous Archie I know is Archie Manning. So,
well, I got a list for you.
Do you?
We got Archie Manning, obviously tied to Eli and Peyton. We have boxer Archie Moore. All right. Now, Archie Moore was a badass. So you had like Archie Moore and Sonny Liston, and then obviously all the way up to Ali and Tyson and stuff. Archie Moore from Mississippi, man.
My folks are from Mississippi.
Say it again.
My folks are from Mississippi.
Boom. It's a covenant convergence here. And finally, badass running back. I think he played for the Cincinnati Bengals, but he was with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Archie Griffin. Old schoolers all remember Archie Griffin.
Okay.
And maybe like you, I'm not sure his first name was or was not Archibald.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, now I learned two more. Speaking of names, I was putting up some flyers last week around my neighborhood, trying to get people to tune into the podcast. And I met a guy. He said that he used to work with you back in the day. His name was JP. And he said,
wow.
Yeah, he said, you tell him JP says hi.
Yeah, man. When I started at KFAN, it was 1998, and I was doing sports updates for Jesse the Body Ventura. Okay. And JP was kind of doing the same thing. So old school, best school, and always good to hear names like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I did kind of want to ask you about. So I know that before kind of get into the Vikings commentating, you were doing some, and I guess you still do a little bit with the Canterbury Park and the horse racing and things like that. How did you originally get into that?
Well, with horse racing, I'm 54 years of age. When I was growing up in and or right outside of Washington, D.C., we lived in my mom and I lived in a very small apartment complex, and she was a single mom. So, she was always looking for things to do with me, whether taking me to Washington Bullets games. I'm a big NBA guy, see Elvin Hayes back in the Dr. J days, or Washington Capitals games. We didn't have enough money to get to what was then called Redskins games. So she would take me to a little racetrack called Rosecroft Raceway. And I fell in love with how the announcer sounded on the public address system. And we went back to Private Hill Apartments in Oxon Hill, and it had a pool. And like within the week, my friends Billy Camilio, Lucius Tisdale, and Miles Spires, they would come to the pool. And I'm like 12, 13, and they would run around the pool, and I would fake call the race. Well, the real announcer at that racetrack was also staying at the apartment complex. And right at the end of my mock race call, he finished it. And I mean, I almost crapped my pants. Yeah, I mean, I was embarrassed. It just was weird. And, so from that moment on, Just always, I loved it. I like the competition of it. I like the crescendo building of it. And they're racing. Archie pops out of the gate, takes a 3-length lead. Off the far turn, here comes Archie and his podcast, which is a Zoom. And now they head for home. So it has, it's helped me a lot with play-by-play in the NFL.
Now, how did you originally, I guess, transition from that? Because I know you also worked at a newspaper for a brief period of time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was, let's see. So I didn't go to college.
Okay.
I went to, in Southern California, went to high school there. Then I went to Pasadena City College for 5 years. And, during that time, I interned at the Pasadena Star News and covered horse racing and high school sports. Got a chance to do some Lakers and Clippers just a little bit. Okay. And, so with the newspaper tie to it, it just really gave me a high level appreciation of the English language and words to use and, where to put them and stuff like that. So that kind of started that.
Okay. And are you still kind of trying to, obviously you always want to improve as long as you're in your career, right? But are you still kind of practicing on the voice and manners of speaking, things like that? Or do you feel you got it down? Great
question. Well, for instance, I'm about ready to put together the Vikings Bears game calling depth chart for this weekend. This was the first one from the Monday Night Football game. So if you could see it, that's kind of like everything that goes into it: offense, defense. Then you flip that bad boy over, offense, defense. So this, I guess I could put Cordero Patterson, whatever amount of years, Tennessee, 8 kick return touchdowns, played for the Vikings these years. Boom, that's it. I like to dive a little more deeply and find the non-obvious for those who take time to listen.
Okay.
And, just kind of I guess to properly answer your question, it's yes. It can become obsessive, where it's not like I'm at a stage in my career where I feel like I got to beat anybody, and a lot of newbies, trying to get into this game, and maybe even you, they recognize the lines are long and the gigs are hard to find. So when you do get them, I feel truly there's only one way to treat jobs like I have, and that's to continually improve. Look for different adjectives, look for different ways to describe Dalvin on long runs as opposed to screaming and he's loose every time.
Right.
And Justin Jefferson, just different ways to describe things. So yes, I always am working at it.
Okay. And now something that was just super interesting was that depth chart that you just showed me. I always wondered, how do they remember everything? Are they just pulling everything off of a computer? Or how long does it take you to kind of put that together as far as the facts?
So here we have, this is for this game. Okay. This is for the one coming up Sunday. So I got Bears offense, Vikings defense. Then you flip that mug over and then you got that. Okay. Now this will become this, and what it entails. Whether you're 6-7, whether you're 2 and whatever, or it's 0-9 with Favre, and it looks like we might go to the Super Bowl. It's so stimulating to do it. I get game releases from obviously the Vikings and the opponent. I'm big on Pro Football Reference and, just digging up trends from 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 games. And, I'll go to NFL.com and the Game Pass early in the week, try to figure out who their nickel is. What are they doing with this rookie, Darnell Mooney? Is David Montgomery, he's not the fastest thing in the world, kind of pulls a sled a little bit, but his last couple since he came off a layoff have been good. So I got to figure out why. Then at the end of the week, I'll go to NFL.com and the Game Pass and watch the Bears and start memorizing their numbers.
Okay.
I can't put an hour. I can't put a time amount on it, Archie. Because the time flies. It's 2020, so I'm home more than I generally am. So I have more time to really hone in on it, and I really enjoy doing it. And in fact, I'm not going to say I enjoy putting together the game calling depth chart and delivering it in a way that hopefully people love. more than the home games. But man, these home games with no fans, I mean, the last one this weekend is supposed to be Fan Appreciation Day. And, I don't disrespect the virus, the devil's wind blowing all throughout out there. I don't disrespect that. But man, it's just sad. It's just sad.
Yeah, and especially you being one of the people inside of it. I mean, do you know what the vibe is like for the players and kind of how they're taking that?
That's a really good question. And I certainly can't speak for them, but I can say, if you think about our games, forget the Green Bay game. All right. We got Gladney, we got Holden Hill, we got all these new players and inexperienced players, Cam Dantzler, so on, and no preseason. So Aaron came in and unfurled the most dominating, in control quarterback performance I've ever witnessed live in my life. It probably should have been more predictable to me than it was. The Indianapolis game wasn't good, but from there on, they got better. But with the home games, like that Atlanta game, I mean, when Kirk threw it to Deion Jones, I mean, I felt like opening the glass on the broadcast booth, Archie, and like yelling out, guys, Kendricks didn't die, like in the game that he went down, whatever game that was 2 games ago. Back in that Atlanta game, I wanted to open up the glass and be like, come on, man, you still can win the game, because there's just not that built-in energy that everybody's used to, but most teams are dealing with it like that. So you just got to pick yourself up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back just a little bit into kind of the skill and the art of commentating, are there some guys that kind of took you under their wing, or some guys that you really respect in the industry that you've tried to emulate?
Yeah. In 1979, I moved to Los Angeles. My mom remarried and pulled me from Washington, D.C. We went out to the Los Angeles area. So I was the kid that would lay in bed late at night and listen to Chick Hearn call LA Lakers games and Vin Scully call Dodgers games. Now that's after I ran into the racetrack announcer and he embarrassed me, but he he kind of motivated me too. So then, that for me, I just kind of always knew I wanted to do something like that. Now, I started at KFan in 98 doing a radio show, started Vikings play-by-play in 02. My first play-by-play job at any level. I auditioned for it. I lost, and then I won. Just absolute blessing from God that I got that job with no experience.
Right.
And have been able to hold it for 2 decades. During that time, specifically early, Chad Hartman, who used to do a show with Dan Barrero at KFAN, he was the Wolves play-by-play guy. He pulled me to the side a lot and talked to me about my calls. Kevin Harlan took a liking to me for whatever the reason within the first 2 or 3 years of my career. And Kevin has always stayed in touch with me and told me what he likes and maybe some things I can work on. So the way I like to put it is, if Kevin would have me, then I consider myself a limb on the Kevin Harlan tree.
There you go. Now, speaking of calls and things like that, so I was born in 95, so probably like my earliest memories of Vikings football, the first season I remember pretty much all the way through is that 2002 season when they lost to the Cardinals. Right.
No, 03.
03. Okay.
Yeah,
03. Yeah.
It was Mike Tice's second year.
And I remember kind of your call, and I remember just not really understanding, because I was like, we have a winning record. Why aren't we going to the playoffs? And you, especially just as a career, you can tell that you're very invested in, the outcome of the games and things like that. So have you had to kind of rein in emotion sometimes, or do you feel that you just, work better just laying it all out on the line?
Well, very early in my career, given, I had called a lot of horse races from 93 to 02, but I'd never done football play-by-play. I'd never done any type of sports play-by-play. So very early in my career, the pitch to my voice and my cadence and my crescendo building and just the nuts and bolts it was very loose. And, I was living and dying with every play. And, that's kind of who I am, period, when I get myself into something. But it did need refinement. And Kevin Harlan would tell me that, Chad Hartman, my bosses at KFAN, and that would include, former Vikings owner Red McCombs, who after that 03 Arizona Cardinals game, and I screamed, no, Cardinals have knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs. Red didn't like that call. And I'm not going to say he made me sweat the entire offseason as to whether I was coming back in 04, but he made it known to me that that he was not a fan of it. So, I improved in 04, kept the job, and here we are.
Yeah. What are some, obviously, I'm sure, Minneapolis Miracle's got to be right up there, but for you, what are some of your favorite calls or most memorable kind of moments in games?
Well, the 2009 NFC title game. So that means, Archie, don't call me Archibald's like 14. So, here you are, man, just thinking about high school, girls, things are starting to happen, trying to love this team. And you're like, are you kidding me? Are they trying to kill this quarterback? The 2009 loss to the Saints is the single most polarizing professional moment that I believe I will experience until the Vikings get to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. And I know we lost, but simply being around Brett Favre that year, it's, you almost didn't want to watch him do things the way he did them because, now you know exactly how it's supposed to be done. On every single level. Before that, it was Dante Culpepper, and I love Dante, and Dante was good. And after that, now we got Kirk, and, Kirk's good. But Favre, the way he did it, man, 2009, number one with a bullet, Minneapolis Miracle, that God put that in my heart and subsequently vocalized it and verbalized it in the moment with that pressure. That was unbelievable. Unbelievable, that moment with fans trying to climb into the booth. The moment you referenced back in 2003, that was big. But, for me, Archie, it's more not necessarily the moment or the call. It's just the totality of a season because they're all so different. And you get different coaches and different players and different mindsets. And, it's just a blessing to be able to navigate through positives and negatives emotionally with a team. So, yeah, I just love it.
Now, speaking of Brett Favre, I read another interview the other day about how you kind of, after that game, you talked to him in the locker room and just kind of his aura and things like that. Have there been some other players that you've crossed paths or have the opportunity to meet that you felt like that about as well?
Well, it was different with Brett. With Brett, I think in 09, either because, I was a little intimidated and he's Brett. So therefore, even as juiced into the team and media relations as I am, you just don't walk up to Brett and start talking about non-obvious. You just don't. So I didn't really get that much time with Brett during the course of the season. That's why I got so emotional in the locker room with him and Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin and Adrian after that loss to New Orleans. But I got a lot of friends over the course of time from this team. Mike Tice. I've known Mike since the mid 90s through horse racing. And, Mike was the coach in 02 when I started. So like Mike, Friday, which would be December 18th, he's coming on my KFAN radio show at 11:40, just to do a Covenant catch up. So there are a lot. Corey Chavis, Chad Greenway, Ben Lieber, Adrian Peterson, and I text every so often. Yeah, it's when when you love it the way I do, and I'm not there to break a story with somebody doing something wrong and jump on Twitter and all of a sudden count my followers. I care about these people. I care about this team, and that's first and foremost for me.
Wow. Now, who would you say? Obviously, tons of great players. You got to see Randy Moss and all the people that you just mentioned. Who's the player on this team that you feel like, will define, the next couple of years? Or we had Adrian Peterson. Do you think it's going to be Justin Jefferson, or who do you think?
Well, JJ should win Rookie of the Year, and I'm not going homer on that, and I'm quite aware of what Justin Herbert is doing. But Justin has captured an aura that not a lot of players can. And when you get players like Michael Thomas for the Saints jumping out on Twitter, paraphrasing, just give him the award now. Justin has a following that Herbert doesn't. And Jefferson he's an incredibly high end player. He's going to be incredibly good, I think, but Dalvin hasn't been in the league that long. We remember back to 2017, man, he blows up opening night against New Orleans on Monday Night Football. Then like 3 games later, boom, there goes the ACL. We think there goes the season, but they still go to the NFC title game. But Dalvin is a young player. Justin, Adams in the second half of his career defensively, I jump on my radio show at KFan despite him having bad games and just tell people I love Jeff Gladney and I know what I'm talking about here, even though I'm not watching practice this year the way I normally do. You could just tell he's tough. And when you make a mistake, it doesn't stick with him. And so Gladney's going to be incredibly good too. They got to get Daniil back. Right. Daniil's still relatively young. It's once this team, Archie, next year gets Hunter, Pierce, Kendricks, who's hurt now, drafts, maybe does a little work on the offensive line, the defensive line, and with the third receiver. I'm saving this for after the season on my K-Fan show just to get more in depth. But this team has a great chance to go to the Super Bowl next year. I'm not kidding you. I mean, this team's going to be so good next year, man. It's freaky.
I think so too, because we all, even if they don't make the playoffs this year, right, which it looks like may or may not happen, just the amount of fight and just being able to bounce back from that start is showing a lot. And that's without all the best, some of their best players. So we're about to wrap up here. One more thing I want to talk to you about. Vikings Saints, obviously we hate them. We've hated them for, you can't say that. I don't think. I'll say
why.
I hate the Saints.
Well, A, I don't use the word hate, but B, what I can say is, what a bunch of cheating bleeps. Seriously. I mean, you come into the game with a plan to high-low a quarterback and knock him out of the game and cheat, and you pay for it, and the coach loses a season. That's football sacrilege. They should be ashamed of themselves. They got the ring, but you know what? Sometimes you can have dollars and not have cents. Right. So hopefully they're happy with what they have.
Well, what's your prediction for our Christmas Day showdown?
I don't think Sean Payton wants anything to do with Mike Zimmer. And, they were together with the Dallas Cowboys when Bill Parcells was the coach. And, Sean always has looked up to Mike, and Mike and Sean are very close. Now, we put that miracle on him. Last year, we went to the playoffs. He tried to sneak Patrick Robinson in, and he hadn't played the entire game. Stefanski and Cousins recognized him, went right at him. Thielen gets us inside the 5, boom. Then Rudolph wins it. So I always have and fear the Saints none. So I don't really have a prediction for the game. I'm more worried about that Bears game. I'm not trying to go onto Cincinnati Belichick on you, Archie. But this Bears front 7, when it's rolling, has really, really done damage to our offensive line. And I know we beat them on Monday Night Football, but I'm concerned about this one this weekend. The team needs to jump the Bears, get out to a fast start, and then make Trubisky throw interceptions, because that's what he'll do, or he'll drop the ball. So if we can get this one, Archie, you go to New Orleans, might be a 6-point underdog. Absolutely, we can win. Wrap it up against Detroit, then get this team into the playoffs, see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing.
I got as much time as you want, man.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you. Dan Bailey, I saw some of your tweets, right? You can't, and it's tough, right? Because obviously, I remember your call from Blair Walsh in 2016. Now, obviously, the stakes haven't been as high, things like that. But, can you talk to us a little bit about kind of what you're thinking about Dan Bailey and what it's going to take for him to get out of that slump?
Well, Dan is a very quiet, introverted man. His holder and punter, Britton Colquitt, is loud, funny, loquacious, very spiritually sound. They couldn't be any different. So what I'm getting at here is I just know Britain has talked to Dan a lot, really through the entire season, because, it's not everybody, just because they're playing in the games and they're making a lot of money and stuff like that. And they're very privileged and blessed to be playing at the highest level. But everybody has real lives. I have my life. Archie has his life. Your career's going that way. Hopefully mine's not going that way. But during the course of the whole thing, we have real lives. I got a 17-year-old daughter, tooth and nail, to complete her senior year at Holy Family Catholic High School to get to college. I got a son who's a sophomore in college. That stuff's big, and it doesn't always go the right way. So what I'm getting at here is people need to have respect for who the people are. And in a cancel culture, you're immediately going to hear and see Bailey's missed 7 in a row. He sucks. Let's forget about him. I'm not like that, because he's one of the most accurate kickers in the history of the NFL. And I would say exactly to Mike Zimmer what I'm saying to you. I mean, if you think finding a top 5 or 6 accurate kicker like Bailey on the street or in the draft is easy, God bless you and good luck to you. I think the problem is deeper with Dan than just with his leg. And we only have 3 games left, man, and we're 6-7. You put Bailey out on the street, they ain't going to be there long, because somebody will take him,
Absolutely.
They will fix him, and they will wait for him. So I don't want to be on the wrong side of that.
Yeah. And like you said, I think that's a great point, because sometimes people forget that these guys have lives outside of football.
Right. And I'm certainly in no way saying that anything's a disaster in Dan Bailey's life. But what I'm saying is, let's stop worrying about the right leg and start considering people's mental wherewithal and their mindset, specifically in 2020, specifically with men who internalize. So, I mean, this has been a bastard of a year on many, many levels for many people, man. I don't have to tell you that. Maybe it is for Dan. Right. So let's cut somebody a break who has tremendous equity and will bounce back.
Yeah. Now, you said your kids are in high school. Are they doing the distance learning, or are they in person?
My son was a freshman at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix last year.
Okay.
I've traveled all around the country to do my jobs and everything. Now, I've settled in here for more than 2 decades, but man, I learned a lot by driving around the country 5 consecutive years to call races, doing it in Shakopee, Minnesota, San Francisco, Grand Island, Nebraska. And, as the kids would say, during that time, I took a lot of L's, but now I look back at it, and I'm not like LMAO. I'm like GTG. I got to go, because I learned, now looking back at things, that I'm able to instill in my kids and younger people trying to get into this game, broadcasting, that I just know how to handle things better and pressure. And I find peace, I think, easier than a lot of people, because I've experienced, I have seen, and I'm not kidding you, I've seen what the bottom looks like, man, and what it takes. If living for eternity is all that matters to you, which is me, then, I've just seen what kind of needs to go into that. And I'm able to help people, including my kids, with that. So, my son being at Phoenix last year, now he's back here doing his sophomore year. And my daughter, she, the distance learning, because it is a private school, so they can call their shots a little differently than public schools. She splits it between distance and going there.
Okay.
I am a major proponent of her going to school. Go to school, be with those kids. And I'm non-judgmental, Archie. I mean, you might have somebody over here so fearful of getting bit by this devil's wind that they shower with masks and they're trembling. And over here, you got those a-holes who are like, oh, the thing's a hoax. I'm not wearing a mask, blah, blah, blah. F you. You're a bleep if you wear a mask. With those people, I mean, that's awful. On the other side, I'm not one to be like, hey, I'm going to pray for you. No, I just hope that they're able to find calm and peace. But myself and my covenant, and we laid this out very early in March, we are not going to fear what is happening right now. And we've been robbed of convenience The vain have had their mirrors shattered. The greedy are twisting and turning or forced to give. The hedonistic have stopped or they've slowed down. And we are going to be at peace because we are faith, not fear. And that's it, man. I'm not going to go too far down the road on this because I don't want to be misconstrued. Mm-hmm. But like when Kirk Cousins said, if I die from COVID, I'm fine with it. Well, I mean, he got savaged.
He did.
And, I think people took a lot of what he was saying out of context. Kirk basically has the Bible memorized.
Right.
And what he was saying via the gospel was, yeah, I have beautiful kids and a wonderful wife and a great career and good health. But if I die, I'm going to heaven. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to better be able to help Archie and my kids and everybody else, in my view, if I'm there. So that's kind of our view too. I'm not going to get loud and be like, well, if I die from coronavirus, then so be it. That's it. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, that's the case. But there is no fear with my kids. They will comply. And if they get the opportunity to go to school and be with people, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, back in March, April, I was kind of the same, just, scared to step out of the house. And, now I'm still taking precautions, still trying to be as smart as I can about it. But I decided about in, July, August that I was just not going to live in fear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing sucks right now, bud. I mean, again, I'm non-judgmental guy. And on the radio, I call it age of rage. But whether it's social media with Twitter, whether it's radio, emails, people out in public, man, I mean, this is leaving a lasting impression on people forever. And whether it's shaking hands or hugging or whatever, man, I just the mental situation with this pandemic purge, I feel is highly underrated. And it's not with me. I'm on it every single day. And I just wish everybody peace and joy. And, hopefully they're able to get through it nicely.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with me. I really had fun talking with you. Good luck, continue with the rest of your career. I hope your kids stay, safe and healthy and you have a great Christmas. All right.
Archie, you too. Have a great Christmas. Thank you very much for including me. And maybe we can cut a deal if the Vikings win 3 in a row and actually make the playoffs. Maybe you're the good luck charm and we come back and do it again.
All right. That sounds good. I'll let you do it.
Best of luck to you, bud. All right.
You too. Bye.
See ya.
All right, guys. That was my interview with Paul Allen, the veteran voice of the Vikings. Great guy. I love what he's done as far as commentating, that kind of raw emotion, everything like that. Go ahead and give his talk show on KFAN a listen when you have the chance. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link down here. Hopefully Vikings win 3 in a row so we can get him back on the program. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.